GKFX Prime presents the Market Analysis Webinar.
Hello traders, how are you doing? It's another August summer week here on the chart. My name is Dima. As always, another look here at the market for this coming week. Hope you had a very good trading week last week. As you may see already, as mentioned, this is the summer month, the quieter holiday period time for the market. So you may be experiencing a little bit of more sloppy, unusual, ranging market behavior, whichever way you want to call it. And we are now heading into a new week. So let's get going for this week. Do have a few more setups. Markets are still moving, and I'm gonna start as always with the calendar for the week. Let's see what we can find this week. Tuesday, we have got CAD CPI numbers. The main news is actually going to come on Wednesday. Gonna be looking out for these. On the New Zealand dollar, from New Zealand, we've got the rate statement. So that'll be a big one for the New Zealand dollar. And from the US, on the US dollar, we've got the FOMC, which is usually a major event, a major point on the calendar. Thursday, we've got some unemployment figures from Australia, but as far as I can see, we do not have any Aussie pairs for this week. However, that might affect the New Zealand pairs. And again, on Friday, we've got another more news from the Royal Bank of New Zealand. There's a statement from them, but the main one will be the rate and the FOMC. So let's get going. Let's see what we've got for this week. Some of these charts you may recognize from last time. All right. Gonna start with the big ones. Let's go with, what should we go with? Pound yen. All right, so pound yen. What can we see on the chart? Let's have a look and break it down for you. Well, the obvious thing that pops up to me here is we've got wicks to the upside, wicks to the downside, bit of ranging movement here. You can kind of draw a box around it. However, what we can see is slight lower lows, lower highs. We've got a kind of trending, downtrending market ever so slightly, not by much. Last week, what have we got? The momentum was to the downside and we closed lower. We have that slight weakness, not strong weakness because we have this wick to the downside, but weakness nonetheless. Daily, let's have a look at the daily. You can see it a bit more clearly. We've got this low having broken minor lows here, and then these major lows over here, indicating some more possibility to the downside. So I'm looking at this next low as a possible target, and definitely this one as the point before that. Let's just move it here, which is the 159.5 level. All right, so last week having closed lower, looking for weaker price. I'm gonna go to the lower time frame, and what I'm gonna wait to see is confirmation of that. So I would like a break of these lows on the daily, and then once we get that break, a lower time frame possible retracement, and then a continuation to the downside as usual, trying to get the better price, possible pullback to these levels, and you're gonna pair that up with other indications, other confluences, mainly price, and also if you use other indicators or confluences, you may want to confirm that based on your strategy and your higher probability. So this is the higher probability that I see at the moment. We'll see how it goes. Now, if the market rips to the upside, does not break this low with conviction, and instead goes higher, gonna have to wait for more price action to happen. I'm gonna go back to the high time frame and then look out for a reversal. At the moment, this whole thing is in a bit of a range here. That's why I am going to wait and see what happens. Going to give it a little bit more time. All right, that's pound yen. Let me move on to the next one. Let me have a look at Euro New Zealand. Zooming out here on the weekly, what I'm looking at here is this major spike higher, and then these lower lows, lower highs, I should say, and then lower lows, and we're kind of moving gradually to the downside. So I'll be looking for that continuation. Here's the next low that we're looking to break, and then zooming out, go to the monthly, zoom out just to make it a bit clearer. The next low will be here at 1.52, just above. So here, next, looking at the weekly, last week very bearish. So going into next week, we'd like to see higher prices, and then the continuation to the downside. May get an even deeper retracement. That'll be even better into the zone over here before the capitulation. But that's what I'll be looking at for a higher probability setup. Now, if the market goes lower and just doesn't look back, well, that'll be a missed setup. So for the moment, this is what I'm looking at on the Euro New Zealand. So we got weakness on the euro, strength on New Zealand. If you have a look at New Zealand pairs, and that reflects in the weakness in Euro New Zealand. So weak pair against a strong pair, or whichever way you want to look at it, brings about this very, very heavy set market. That's the Euro New Zealand. Okay, let's move on to Euro CAD, another Euro pair. So as I keep mentioning before, really bear this in mind. We've got 2 euro pairs, so you don't want to be shorting 2 euro pairs. You've got to increase risk. Going to be choosing one. However, because of the probabilities, and I didn't see any other high probability opportunities in the market, I am still going to look at another euro pair. This one looked good to me. Quick look at last week. Marked out this zone, and we had that push higher. That was a successful setup, and then we had that push higher. Hopefully you got in a bit of secured a bit of profit there, and then we reversed very sharply to the downside. So I'm gonna just remove all of these from the chart. Look at the weekly, and look at the weekly there. Last week closed very weak, created this spike, left this wick to the upside and closed lower. So easy to see that we have bearishness, and with that bearishness I'll be looking at this low as the next target. Go to the 4 hour, and you can draw this trend line if you like. Got this break. Next thing I'll be looking at, also paying attention to this low to be broken. Once broken, going to look for a high probability, better price, and then continuation to the downside. So yeah, we could also have a much deeper pullback. Obviously, the deeper the better, into a much higher zone. There'll be a higher probability, a nice more expensive price. We've got this bit of a zone right here. So yeah, that'll be a nice confluence right here. It's kind of a break of a trend line, pullback, nice deep pullback is good and juicy. So that's the high probability outlook on the Euro CAD. Let's move on now. Let me go to the next chart. Let's have a look at, let's go look at gold. All right, so with gold last week and the week before that, very clear outlook, and you can see that the market just kept going higher and higher and higher, and slowly, gradually, surely creeping its way up and up and up. So no real opportunity to enter here based on what we were looking at. However, looking on the, let's just quick jump to the daily, we've got C4 straight weeks of bullish momentum. That's on the weekly, and on the daily, we've got this zone here that we've hit that we were looking to trade from. Now, this is where I would be more careful and wait for the probabilities to come to us, for the market to come into our favor. What does that look like is the question. Well, what we'd like to see is some confirmation of the downside. So let's just delete everything here, clean up the chart, and just get a nice clean outlook. That's better. Can extend this a little bit. It's a bit cleaner. So we've got here the high of July, the previous month. The market may react off this level. Combined with this trend line, we may see a run higher and then a collapse lower. So I'd like to see that happen first of all, and gonna confirm whichever way whether it does that or not. It'd be nice to get a nice higher price to take out these previous month of July highs before the sharp drop to the downside. And then once we see that confirmation, then again, going to just draw a level here, the zone, nice better price, pullback, and then continuing to the downside. Now, there's also the risk, or I should say a chance, that the market will go higher, even higher still, and then pull back and continue to the upside. Now, if that's the case, I'm gonna stay on the sidelines and watch it and see what happens, because a break of this structure high will indicate bullishness in gold. And if this level holds and we do not break this high, then my personal bias will still be to the downside, and that will be the remaining higher probability setup. So until that happens, I'm going to stay with the sell bias, and let's see how the market plays out. It should be an interesting week. So remembering we've got FOMC on Wednesday, so we'll see what happens until then. The market could still range a bit, it could still hold before the volatility kicks in. So be wiser to sit out, wait for that, and wait for the probabilities to come to you. But in terms of a setup, that's what I'm looking at, unless something changes, unless the situation adapts. So we're going to have to adapt to the market and play a bit of a poker face with gold on this one, really. Show it some respect at the same time. Gold can be a bit of a tricky one if you don't know what you're doing. Okay, next, let's have a look at the S&P. Right, I think that we looked at this a couple of weeks back or last week, and after we blew through this level that I was looking at, the next level that I looked at, which is not on the chart anymore, but you can look back on the previous videos, was right here. And it looks like the market is now reaching up for that, relentlessly moving higher and higher. Now, let me just pick out something here on the weekly, which if you break down this price action and the tendency of the market at the moment, recently for this year, have a look at what you can see here. We've got a break of these structures, break lower, lower, and lower. So we've got this run lower, and then we have this very, very bullish push up, breaking one small high and another small high. And then what do we have happen? We've got another run lower, very sharp run lower, and then a retracement higher, very bullish looking. And we've got this break of this structure right here, relatively speaking, on the weekly time frame, and then possibly this structure right here, which would be similar to what we had if we look at this outlook over here. Yeah, we've got a similar picture developing right here if we break down into those both those sections, right? So no guarantee that that is the case, and just because it happened in the past doesn't mean it's going to happen again. But the market doesn't fully repeat itself, but it does rhyme. So I'm looking for that to happen, possibly happen, just an indication, just something to point out at the moment. And then if I draw this fib here, we're now well into the retracement, deep into the 61.8, looking for the 78 level, and going to wait for the reversal there. So if that happens, we're going to have a very likely a big drop. So it's going to get very interesting here. Let's see how it goes. Yeah, I'll be looking for probably the daily chart here, and for the market to break down. And then once it breaks down, if we have a breakdown, again, pull back to a better price, and then continuation. We have this low over here. If I delete this, got this medium term or smaller swing right here that I'll be looking for the market to break. That will be further confirmation to the downside if we have a break of this swing, if it doesn't hold anymore. So it'll be interesting to see what happens on the S&P. So keep your eyes on that, because if that's the case, if these probabilities all come together and the move works, it could be a big one, a big drop. Let's see what happens. Okay, next one. Let me go to oil, an old favorite of ours, isn't it? Oil. What can you say? Yeah, when the price action is there, then I'm going to follow the market. All right, so as we were looking at this breakdown, previous weeks, here was the week before last that we're looking for that zone here I marked out as a possibility to enter at, and I was looking for the market to reach this zone area right here. And what happened, it did not quite reach that zone. And what we can see is I was looking for it to come and reach into the area. It just about pipped in here and then moved towards it and then actually reversed against us. So this was a tricky one. Everything came into play, and this was indeed a valid scenario, but it was one of those cases, I have to admit, where the market just went in the opposite direction and decided to take this level out once more. And yeah, it happens. What now though? That's the question. Well, this is where I see it here. This is a little bit of a tricky scenario, so this may require a little bit of patience as well. So I was looking at this zone, which we're now at. In fact, this would be more accurate. We've now gone through the 61.8, we are at the 78, and the market has bounced off it and rejected. First clue I see here is we've broken this little low right here. So this this swing here may hold, and we may be still in a sell scenario, coming down lower into the level I was looking at, which just disappeared. This level right here, coming down into that. But I'd really want to see some more downside momentum to make sure that this is not just a brief pause in the market before it heads higher. The high probability is to wait to see that. What happens is we have a break lower. So a break lower would be nice bearish closes. Once again, capitulation to the downside, and then once we see that, then a pullback and a continuation drop to the first level being the low right here, and then the next low. All right, so that's that. And that's on oil. Okay, so possible continuation to the downside, possible sell. However, gonna wait to see some more confirmation that we are not switching to the buy side, and for oil to go higher up. Let me just mention here briefly the invalidation level, and invalidation level for me would be this level right here, this high. So if we go higher, then this whole idea to sell would be invalid, and I'll be waiting for more price action, possibly to next week, the week after, to see how it works out. Right, and yeah, finally, Bitcoin. So what are we seeing on Bitcoin? Well, I was looking at this level. It's getting quite hot here. I was looking at this level and zone, and I was also looking at the market to reach into here. So we haven't quite reached it. We are sort of creeping upwards. I did look at this area last week, if I'm not mistaken. We ran a bit lower, and then finally made that big impulsive move up, had the retracement, and if you missed this impulsive move, a retracement would have been just as valid, and went higher. So looking for the market to go higher still. Let's look at last week's candle. You can see it was bullish after this brief pause, bearishness. So now we're going to see continuation, looking for that continuation. So question is where? Well, we've got a valid entry here and not looking to break these lows. However, this is quite some distance. So better to see a nice break of the level, then a retracement, and then continuation to the upside. However, second option is this zone right here. So if we move down into this zone and then we continue to hold it, perhaps a range, and then we start moving higher, that will be an indication that the market wants to hold this level, this zone, and then going higher from here. That will be another higher probability scenario. So let's see, Bitcoin is a little bit uncertain, choppy at the moment, but we are going higher, making higher highs and higher lows. So that is the indication that we are going higher still, possibly into this zone right here. So a little bit higher from where we are now. Yeah, and this is all part of the retracement, remembering that we are actually in a whole more bearish scenario on Bitcoin. Still no indication of bullishness. The bullishness will most likely come here. We've got this break of this high, then we'll be looking for a higher probability buy scenario. But at the moment, we're still in this sort of swing. You can see this retracement that we're making, and after this sharp move to the downside. So still preferring looking for the sell as it stands. Again, market could change. Remember, manage your risk and let the market tell you what it wants to do. So these are the charts for this week. Remember the economic calendar, and look out for the New Zealand and the dollar pairs. And we've got Bitcoin and gold also affected by the dollar, and S&P. So we've got with the FOMC news. So let's see how it plays out. It may also affect oil too. And we've got New Zealand, so that would be with the Euro New Zealand setup. All right then. Thank you for tuning in this week. Hope you enjoyed this breakdown and have a good trading week. Pick your charts, pick your setups carefully, manage your risk as always. Most important number one rule in trading. So my name's Dima. As always, thank you very much for joining in. See you on the next video next week with another breakdown with some more charts. All right. Take care, everybody. Bye for now.